But we are many. And this gives us choice too. We can look at the many around us and get an idea of just how wide the choice might be, and explore to see if it's even wider. And in this experience, we find friendships and enemies. Persons that seem to be a blessing to us, and persons that don't. It looks like that anyway. It may be that we're all result of causes and conditions, but such are still localized to what we see as specific persons. We may or may not hold them accountable for such. We may have therefore preferences as to which persons we like to be with and which we don't. And those that we like are, by definition, I suppose, those that in some sense accord with our values. And we, in response, gratitude, want to bless them in return for what we see as their harmony and goodness with us. So, we're interested in their beliefs. We review them. We ask them about their beliefs and why they believe it. Why they think this belief is more successful and therefore have chosen it. And we reflect whether this accords with our beliefs. I mean, simplistically, does the Jesus story recommend a belief that seems to result in a happiness of life, a fullness of life, or something specifically in accord with your values? Then you will choose that belief over beliefs that do not accord with consequences that you value. So we look at our world accordingly and choose. We just do. Is there a way of doing this with more favourable consequences? Yes. I might say that demonstrate some caution, because some experiments could be disastrous and end your possibility of choosing, in other words, kill you. So we're, in that sense, rather conservative, cautious. Else we're not here very long. Jesus' story says possibility of a loving God is the way to go. By God we mean someone at least conceivably very powerful, if not all powerful, and loving, especially of us, if not all loving, whatever that might mean. Taste and see. Does that work for you? There's many that do believe such and say it's the way to go. And there's many now that don't believe such and think it's probably not the way to go, but are not really sure what's best to put in its place. But then we're not sure either, those that think we do know it's the way to go. We're not sure, not certain. There's no certainty in this world. That's the freedom of the matter. If there were certainty, then there's no choice. You just do what is rigidly the case. But you might then be longing to practice something that's alternative to this. And be very, very dissatisfied because you can't. Well, you can here, because you can believe that the alternative is both feasible and the way to go. And then practice to see if you're right. And if you're wrong, adjust quickly in case you lose life in the experiment of such. In other words, don't do experiments that blow you and your laboratory up. That's not a good idea from your point of view of valuing life as it seems to be. This awareness and thinking and doing and reasoning and observing and experiencing. I'm come that you might have life, says Jesus in the story. Oh, well, that sounds promising. Yes, it's the sort of way I'd like to go, as opposed to not have life, yes. And part of the view of this supposed person in the story, Jesus, is that this is the most successful way to go. But hang on, he gets crucified. Is that what I'm looking for? No. Oh, it's a bit of a mystery then, isn't it? Is the story faulty? Well, I don't know. What other stories are there? How about the story of the Buddha? Let's have a look at that. Or how about, Krishna? Oh, that doesn't look so different to the story of Jesus in many ways. But then nor does the story of the Buddha, except that he doesn't have some personal God, except in practice the Buddha and the doctrine and the fellowship of the believers, the monks. Oh, that doesn't look so different to the other religions in that sense. Seem to have a common sort of thread. Well, what about secularism? Oh, it still has beliefs. Believes in a doctrine, logic and rationality, the rules. It has a philosophy that comes from the fellowship of the believers, what we might call scientists and so on, the monks, the experts in the field of reasoning. And it has its heroes, oh yes, the outstanding monks. The Einsteins of the world and so on. It's not so different. What does it value? Oh, it values life, no question of it. Wants to make life better as it understands it, same as everyone else. Does it have the same values? Well, it values life. It does value happiness. It hasn't quite worked out how happiness could exist, but it does exist. It wants to increase welfare, it can it can certainly embrace and accept economic theory and sociological theory, and it's not devoid of ideas. On the contrary, it's focusing on what ideas are most effective in doing what? Well, in improving life. Well, that's what religion attempts to do, isn't it? Yes, it's a religion. Does it have a God? Yes, it has a devotion to its greats, who are more historistic than real, of course, because we find that the greats are the consequence of a lot of other people's work, not just their own. You know, did Einstein really have such and such a theory that was novel and new? No, it was a logical extension of what was already there. It needed the vast foundation of the other people in the field, or he'd never have got into the subject in the first place. It's not that he sat in the jungle and came up with the theory of relativity. Indeed, we are all in the single way that we can only be, namely how we find ourselves in a society with values and views and ways of doing things and things to experience accordingly. We have it all in common in that sense. And from such commonality, we similarly listen very earnestly to what other people believe and trust, and choose accordingly. And it seems best to trust that this is the way to go. Thank you, Heavenly Dad.